Let's watch a movie. How about this one? Dark Asylum. I picked this bad boy up at a video store a couple of months ago and never got around to watching it. I never heard of it before. Really, the only reason it stuck out was because it starred Larry Drake as the titular Dark Asylum. Larry Drake, of course, most well known for playing the villain in Darkman, also played Bubba in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, a special gem from the 80s that I made an analysis video on. Anyway, let's check this out.
An hour and 36 minutes later.
Well, that was interesting. Let's talk about it. The film starts with a found footage-esque opening to the sounds of news audio clips talking about the horrific trash can murders. Bit of a weird name to call them, but anyway. The voices say that only blood has ever been found at the murder scenes. Well, if only blood was found, how do you even know it is a murder scene? Could have just been where someone got a paper cut. Really deep one. With cardstock paper, maybe. Multiple times in multiple back alleys around the city. You don't know. The killer is known as the Trasher. Very good name for a serial killer, if I do say so myself. If I were a serial killer, I think my MO would be bashing people with a printer, and I could only hope to get a cool nickname like The Paper or The Inker. We then cut to tonight. Well, tonight 25 years ago. Police chase a car fleeing the Trasher's latest crime scene, only to catch the car and find that it's two kids on a joyride, not their suspect. Although, I don't know how they already knew this was the Trasher's latest crime scene. Who's to say the kids didn't do it? Then they hear a blood-curdling scream and call for backup, with one of the officers spotting something in the storm drain and wanting to check it out. The backup officers arrive and say that they took so long because the Trasher got another one. So, I guess the police chasing these kids has nothing to do with the crime scene from earlier, but the way it's presented seems to intentionally confuse you. They go in the sewer and discover a sort of domicile, along with some dead bodies. I don't know about you, but if my home permanently had 2 or 3 feet of water, I'd probably have trench foot, or at least be very pruny. This might be the worst joke I've ever made in my life. Surprise! The Trasher was among the dead bodies and attempts an escape, getting shot in the process. Which isn't a good thing, because now he has to go to the hospital instead of prison. I just want to point out now that Larry Drake in this looks like a combination of Marlon Brando, Steven Seagal, and the Baron Harkonnen from Dune. Next, a woman returns home to her mother and, very normal-looking daughter. A phone call comes in, and the girl...
Daddy!
Weird.
Daddy!
Subtextually, we can gather that the husband isn't in the picture due to cheating. The mother gets a page to go to the asylum for work. She's a psychiatrist. And says bye to her daughter.
Mommy, are you still mad at Daddy?
I'm not mad at Daddy, honey. We just need a little time to think.
Are you going to think tonight?
Yes.
Me too. Night.
Good night.
I'm pretty sure all the words the daughter is saying are ADR. The mother's mother isn't much better with her acting ability.
I have to go back to work.
At this hour?
I'm not going too far. They called me out to Crestmore.
Crestmore? Couldn't you tell them no? Couldn't you tell them no? Couldn't you tell them no?
I suppose that's why she's been banished to a perpetual purgatory of doing dishes. At the asylum, a doctor is told that the woman is coming. He questions, "You know about her, don't you?" implying something we don't know. She arrives, and we learn that the asylum is closing down and there's only one other patient remaining. Maggie, the psychiatrist, sits down with the trasher to perform a psychiatric evaluation and introduces it by saying this will determine whether you're sent to a mental institution or death row, which I'm certain in real life this would not be said to the psychopath sitting across from you, incentivizing them to be crazy for the sake of not being killed. The trasher remains unresponsive, and they leave the room while he begins his escape by eating his straitjacket, before the other doctor convinces Maggie that he wants to see the trasher in the interrogation room alone to get to speak to him, and to breathe life back into his career for being able to speak to such a prolific killer. He says, "Do this for me, a professional favor like I did for you." Ooh, ominous.
Except, they never bring this up again, so we never know what this mysterious professional favor is. Unless they do explain it briefly at some point and I missed it, which is definitely possible. This is also when I noticed that the music barely isn't playing. Funny enough, I noticed this as a trait of cheesier films. I don't know why, but they overuse music, and seriously, it is non-stop in this.
The doctor enters the room and plays good cop. Maggie looks around and finds a file that she begins searching through before being interrupted by a page from her mother. And in the background, we can clearly see that the trasher is speaking. But then, when we go into the interrogation room, he's still silent and only speaks when he attacks the doctor and says,
"Let me out."
But she doesn't notice anything is wrong until he breaks the window and launches his Baron Harkonnen body through it like a bowling ball. He chases Maggie, but she locks herself in a room and goes through the laundry chute. The police build a cage to transport the trash man, then begin to notice things are off and go to where the trasher is, and notice the body of the doctor. One of the officers says, "Holy squat."
Holy squat!
Which I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke or what. And then another officer notices red on the ground, and he says, "It's not blood. It's butane," which I feel like is very specific, and I don't know how he was so certain.
That'd be like if I saw yellow snow and said, "That's not pee, it's snow cone," and then started licking it. Even if I might be right, why risk it?
Then they get exploded by a makeshift bomb the trasher made before he makes easy work of everyone who survived, sparing the life of one officer on the promise that he shows him out. The asylum gets put on lockdown, with Maggie getting locked in. She makes her way to the security room where she's able to see the trasher about to ambush some people, and she goes to warn them, to absolutely zero effect, because the one guy shoots the cop accidentally, as if he's not even trying to get out alive. The trasher chases him and tries to get the keys he dropped on the other side of the lockdown bars, killing the man by pushing his head through the bars, I think. I don't really know, cause they don't show us anything. Maggie continues trying to escape, eventually meeting up with the other patient of the asylum who seems very pleasant. Almost too pleasant to be the only other patient in an asylum. You'd think it would be a crazy Hannibal Lecter type guy, but anyway. He's played by the guy who got the cigarettes for his birthday in the Breakfast Club, by the way. They use a walkie-talkie to see if anyone else in the building is alive, and the trasher hears her and answers, pretending to be a police officer and asking where they are, which she immediately was going to answer.
I don't know what school she went to get her PhD. Maybe it was the same place Saul Goodman got his law degree. It must not have been a reputable school, because she is a whole other level of stupid.
The other patient stops her before she can tell where they are. The trasher then convinces Maggie to meet him at another place in the asylum, which still doesn't mitigate the threat to them if the cop is in fact the trasher pretending, which it is. The trasher looks through her briefcase and finds the file she was looking at. Apparently there's something very funny in it. The other patient, Quits is apparently his name, though I'm just going to reference him as Judd Nelson, continuously questions her as to why they are doing this. Shouldn't they just wait things out until the cops supposedly come in 40 minutes? But she doesn't even hear him out. For some reason, she is dead set on dying tonight. They figure out that the officer they're talking to is actually dead, so it must be the trasher at the other end of the radio. And this is the part where my eyes just started glazing over a bit. They try to figure out a plan to escape, going along with him still thinking they think he's a cop, until he figures it out and runs after them. They hide, and he begins to smash the ceiling. This is when she walkies him and says, "You're getting colder." Why? Promoting him to figure out where they are by clicking his walkie and making hers make noise. Once again, she is an actual room temperature IQ individual. On more than one occasion now, she would have avoided danger by not doing anything.
Okay, little lesson in writing here. If you have a character in a situation where they need to do something but they can't, say because they are paralyzed with fear, or they're uncertain whether what they do will better or worsen the current level of danger they're in, and their lack of action gets them into danger, that is writing a character in a way that allows the story to progress, and the character to come face to face with a threat, while also allowing viewers to understand them and not think they're stupid because they may have done the same thing if they were in that position. This is the opposite of that. Here, you have a character who is mostly out of direct danger, and the best thing she can do is wait. But she is thrusting herself into danger because she's not thinking things through. That is a good way to have the viewer think your character is stupid. Let's rewrite this scene. They're both in the ceiling. Judd Nelson is crawling his way away from the trasher, while the trasher is punching holes in the ceiling like Randall was doing in the bathroom in that one scene of Monsters, Inc., moving ever closer to where Maggie is. Maggie sees that Judd Nelson is in a safer spot, and her only hope is to move to where he is, or else be certainly caught, but she's too afraid to. That's it. It took 5 minutes to think of. It's that easy. I feel like maybe the only reason that part was written that way at all was to include the thing with the trasher using the walkie-talkie feedback to find out where Maggie was. And that was the first scenario they thought of that worked. Which, it is a pretty cool idea in a vacuum, and if they took a bit longer to think about it, they certainly could have implemented it in a better way. So, take notes, D.B. Smith and Gregory Gieras.
Gieras. Gieras. Gieras.
Actually, I'm not sure I'm in any place to be giving advice to Gregory
Gieras,
who apparently started off his career in film working on Glengarry Glen Frickin' Ross.
Anyway, the trasher finds where they are and is about to grab Maggie, but Judd Nelson shoots him, causing him to let go and run off. The trasher sticks his finger in his bullet hole, looking like he's enjoying that a bit too much, then sews it up. As they wait it out, Judd Nelson talks about Batco, the man from the file Maggie read. Apparently, he went on a rampage in the asylum years ago. She responds that she's familiar with the story.
Very, very familiar.
The trasher turns on the hot water, which causes them to not be able to stay in the ceiling, and they fall through. The trasher tries to get him again, but Maggie pulls a gun on him, and he asks whether she has bullets left. And she doesn't shoot him? She doesn't even try, which, even if she didn't have bullets, would have been just as effective as what she did do, which was to just throw the gun at him, miss, and then escape through the vent.
Like, why did you not even try to shoot him? It may have just worked.
They escape to the rooftop, with the trasher following close behind. He corners them and says he knows who she is. Maggie Batco. Gasp. Next, they jump off the roof, with him once again following them, back into the asylum to find the key, which they do. In the next part, they're setting up a booby trap, and Judd Nelson apologizes for speaking about her father not knowing who he was to her. And this is the first time it's revealed to us that Batco is her father, not a brother or maybe her husband that they alluded to in the beginning, who did something bad that we had to assume is just boring old cheating.
Anyway, it's a big twist, right? And maybe it should result in some trust issues between the two characters or anything, but no. Just that one line, and neither of them seem to care much.
They go off to set up the trap while the Trasher creepily threatens Maggie over the PA system.
I'm coming for you, Maggie.
Judd Nelson leaves her to lock the doors behind them to buy them time, and the Trasher surprise attacks her, with Judd coming in clutch at the last second to save her, and he swallows the key before facing off with the Trasher. Maggie finally escapes but sees there are no police around. The Trasher is beating up Judd Nelson, who then does the trope of throwing a Zippo in slow motion to save the day. But I don't know if he overestimated how extreme the flames would be, because only a couple measly flames show up, which are quickly done away with an extinguisher the Trasher uses, before he, somehow now on the ground, grabs Judd Nelson and drags him away just as the smoke machine kicks in. So there really wasn't any sort of justified sacrifice, and the trap they made didn't seem to be very effective. Maggie decides to go back in, I'm assuming to save Judd Nelson. She locks up the asylum again and gets to making some traps of her own. The Trasher finds her and reveals the blood-covered key he got from Judd Nelson, and says it's the wrong key. This implies he killed him and took the key out of him, cause we never see Judd Nelson again. R.I.P. She gives him the key before activating her trap, which doesn't work, and so she just grabs a grenade and is gonna blow both of them up. Before she can, he says he's just gonna leave through the sub-basement and kill her daughter, so he doesn't need the key anymore, and so he throws it back to her?
I have no idea why he didn't leave through the basement earlier if that was an option the whole time. Also, even if you're not going to use the key, just keep it. What is this, Resident Evil? Are you using all your inventory slots? Just drop a couple green ferns.
He starts running as the police finally show up, and Maggie yeets the grenade at him. It's not a secret that her aim also sucks, so it does nothing. And the police just start opening fire on the building. By the grace of all things holy, she survives and comes out all crazy-like. Justifiable crash out. Also, the way these SWAT guys raised and lowered their guns I thought was very funny. If it went on a bit longer, it could have been a gag from a Naked Gun movie.
Excuse me, I don't know whether I can do this. I'll do the best I can, though.
All right. We're getting near lunch, and I know you're a little...
Well, it was the salmon. Sometimes you just get a wrong piece of salmon.
So they disregard her pleas, thinking she's a crazy person, and just go in. She escapes custody, grabs a shotgun, almost gets shot, but a random cop intervenes, recognizing her. She goes back into the asylum to finish the job, and all of the trained police and SWAT are dead?
It's weird. It's weird because anytime we've seen him overpower someone, it's been because he's a massive, overpowering, and intelligent man. Keyword man, not inhuman. He outsmarted the people earlier who had guns, and got close and personal to finish the job, using his size and strength. You can't just show a bunch of dead bodies of multiple trained professionals who have automatic machine guns, and have us assume he dealt with them like it was a walk in the park. This is beyond and unlike anything you have seen him capable of, especially considering he's already been shot twice, electrocuted, and almost blown up by a grenade.
The Trasher travels by sewer pipe, like in Super Mario Sunshine, to Maggie's house and kidnaps her daughter, taking her back to his trench-foot lair, which Maggie finds with the power of motherhood. He comes at her like an alligator, and they have an epic battle where he further demonstrates the absolute impossibility of him overpowering multiple trained men with guns. She repeatedly beats him with a sledgehammer, while her skinwalker daughter, with the ADR voice of a grown woman, gets her to stop before she becomes the real monster.
Mommy?
They both try to escape, and he's not dead yet, so he has his final attempt, which results in a bomb being strapped to his arm. He chops his arm off and then is kicked, falling on the bomb anyway, and finally we see an explosion worth the price of admission. She escapes the sewer with her daughter, and the police go up to her, and she just exasperatingly waves them off, which honestly is a mood. And then the movie ends with this banger of a song playing over the credits.
Honestly, not as bad as I thought it would be. It has the weird lack of logic that a lot of bad movies have, but it was pretty entertaining. I think it was in need of a good twist, like the Batco guy being her husband or something, or that what her dad did was actually justified due to something connecting to the trasher to add a twist on top of the very weak attempt of one the film has.